Sure. I'll step in one more time just to say welcome, CERO, welcome, Laura, welcome, Maya, and for everyone, just to let you know, this is one of the a new practice that we'll be doing moving forward, having our investments come out and reporting out quarterly to share a little bit more about where they are. And so we're excited to have this inaugural report out from a portfolio company. So without further ado, CERO.
Hey, everybody, I'm gonna kick us off and Maya and I are gonna tag team through this. I'm really excited to see this fabulous combination of folks. Some of you I haven't seen for a long time, so it's really great to see you. Some of you like my pals from Rust Belt Riders, where I collaborate in a different space geographically. It's really exciting to see you guys and the combination of community folk and investors. It's just, to me, this is the model for accountability that makes me proud to be part of it all around. And it's pretty much the same thing that makes me proud about being part of CERO Co-op. I'm gonna ask Maya to introduce herself and talk about, and I forgot to say my pronouns are she, them. And Maya and I will most of you know the basics of CERO. I don't think we're going to go too far back into the narrative because I know we have limited amount of time, but we're really going to focus on what keeps us in the work, what makes us feel, what we think is the core importance to being part of CERO as workers, as owners, and trying to keep this small business afloat. And then we're going to talk really a lot more about what it's been like this year, what the trip has been like for CERO through COVID. And Maya will start us off talking about that stuff. And I really want to leave a lot of time at the end to share with you where we are, where we think we're going, and to really open it up and get us in conversation would be fabulous. So Maya, you want to kick in?
Yeah, definitely. Hey, everyone. My name is Maya Gall. I'm a worker owner at CERO and also the sales team manager. I think, you know, just to talk a little bit about what keeps CERO engaged in the work and what the worker owners think about at CERO, I think the main thing is social concern. I'll be quoting Josefina Luna, who's one of the founders of CERO, a lot today. And, she always says to me and the rest of the co-op that, people are at CERO because they care about where we are in the world with our environment and where we are in the world in the social struggles that we are faced with as people, whether it's people of color, low income, working class, and people who, care about how we treat one another and what human dignity is. So I definitely think that's really important to us at CERO and us as worker co-ops. And the other thing is our community. So, we as a startup and a fledgling cooperative business are seeing a lot of pulls in between what it means to exist in the solidarity economy and the cooperative space, but also what it means to exist in our capital-driven market system. So, and then also, what does it mean to continue to move forward and innovate and expand and scale our business? And also, what does it mean to stay connected to our community? What does it mean to continue to serve our community and hold space for people in our community to join our cooperative? So those are some of the things that we think about as being important to us as worker owners, and also thinking about how to get our employees to become worker owners with us. Yeah. Laura.
Great. So let's talk about this year and the business. We are a commercial composting services provider in Greater Boston. In January of 2020, we were serving about 80 customers and collecting about 80 tons of compostable material, saving that material so that it wasn't getting buried or burned in incinerators, and instead is being re-earthed. We work with our composting farm partners to see to it that the material is composted to replenish the soils, which in turn can suck up a whole lot of carbon and help us with our air. And also, we bring back some of that soil to the city to support urban agriculture with folks like Haley House and Urban Farming Institute, among others, Green City Growers in Somerville. So that's what we're in business to do. We're essential in the food space, so we never shut down. Can I share my screen, Nia?
Yes, let me just set you up, Laura, just a second.
Okay. I was just briefly going to show just one slide that I think illustrates
Okay, you're good to go.
the year of COVID. Share this. Can you see? No, you're seeing my whole screen, right?
We can see, yep, Q3 2020.
Are you only seeing the chart, or are you seeing my email too?
Just a chart. We see tabs, but
Okay,
that's not biggie.
great.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted you to see. That is exactly what happened. It's a story of probably every small business in Massachusetts. In March, overnight, we lost 55% of our active customers. Nobody wanted to quit, but everybody had to suspend services because we were shut down. So that was the shock that everyone dealt with. The short story is that little by little, we have started to get back about 20% of the 50% that we had lost, 55% that we had lost. So while things are going in the right direction, there's still plenty of room for concern. We have made it by doing everything we could to trim expenses, except sustaining a determination to keep everybody working who wanted to work. In the end, for us, what that meant was a trade-off of one driver who wanted to stop working, which actually was okay because our capacity was down, and one sales staff who became added, largely in part because of financing with Ujima, who helped us bring Casey on board, and Maya, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but I'll just say a little bit more about the financial stuff. We did everything we could do. We applied for every grant we could apply for. We got PPP money. We used that to help keep people, the payroll going, trimmed expenses, stayed in touch with our customers, did a few management decisions among Josephina, Maya, and I are the active worker owners right now. And we have done a little bit of pay deferment at different times when we needed to do it to keep our cash going. We were also fortunate that I won't talk too much about this, but I'm happy to talk offline with anybody just because it's such a long story. We were in the process of a financial restructuring, and there are others here. I'm happy to see Deborah here, and folks who have helped us along the way to restructure debt that we had 2 years ago. If we had not managed to complete that process in June, shout out to Maggie from CFNE too. Thanks, you guys. If we had not been able to complete that restructuring in June by everybody hanging in there, CERO wouldn't be talking to you right now as a successful enterprise. So I do feel like the worst is over. I think we're doing well. We're going to hope for some more government stimulus. We also still have room in our capital stack from the restructuring to welcome some new investment in the company. If anybody's interested in that, we're looking to raise another $100,000 to $150,000 to put back capacity because we have some really huge pending institutional contracts coming up in the new year. So I don't have to share my screen anymore. I think I can do that. And I can bounce it back to Maya for her comments about, with her expertise on the COVID times.
Yes. As you all know, a lot of restaurants and a lot of the smaller clients and a lot of the deals that were faster to close for us had to either shut down or went out of business. that essentially led for our inbound funnel to dry up, which was really challenging for us because our inbound funnel gave us the short closes that sustained us while we were able to work on closing the larger deals. However, this year we still were able to close 10 deals so far, which is great. And we were able to see a lot of opportunity in the anchor procurement space, where we're currently in the RFP process to provide composting services at Boston University and Northeastern University. And next year we'll be in the process for Emerson College. So there are a lot of great things on the burner, but at the same time, we're still, cultivating relationships and looking for the smaller early adopters, people who are interested in working with us because they're interested in being green and sustainable and working with a local company. So we talked a little bit about what it looked like in sales before COVID. So after COVID, we've been focusing a lot with food processors and food manufacturers, focusing a lot with supermarkets. Those industries are seeing an uptick in their volume just because a lot more people staying home, a lot more people are cooking at home. So it creates an opportunity for us to continue working with them, which is great, and also to continue helping them remove their food waste from the landfill stream. Our decision to hire the sales staff was great timing. We're very fortunate that we were able to get the investment money from Ujima to be able to do that hire. And we wouldn't have been able to definitely bring on those 10 new clients this year without the help of Casey. So that's really amazing. And to have that support of Ujima. Yeah. Oh, Laura, you're on mute.
You want me to talk about these goals, or do you want to, Maya?
Let's see. You can talk about them and then I can fill in some more about the anchor institution procurement.
Okay. Like the anchor institutions Maya told you about, and just as well, having really focusing on the only one I would add that anything that is relating to, for us, there's not as much pivoting to do. So we're not like going from being a brick and mortar restaurant to being a delivery service or something like that. For us, the pivots are a little more subtle, and they have to do with the industries that we're targeting, right? So besides the groceries, we're also working at, we've got a couple of really good contracts with senior living residences. And it's really interesting because a lot of the seniors are the ones who are pushing the management at the places where they live to take on more sustainable practices. And I thought that was really interesting. But they also, eat a lot of food. Where people eat a lot of food, there's always going to be food scraps, and we want to be there. And we want help from every one of you and support in these procurement deals. We're actually doing a full press for community support, particularly on these Northeastern and Boston University contracts, because everybody post George Floyd, thank goodness, is trying to reflect on their commitments to how they're doing their procurement. And it might not always need to be how many pennies can I save? It might be how can I reinvest in the community? And we want to, Ujima's all about holding their feet to the fire on those kinds of things. So anybody who wants to reach out to us, who might have connections with anybody, faculty, staff at Northeastern University or BU, please reach out. And then one of the ways that we have been prudent this year is in deferring some capital expense. So we have some depreciating equipment that needs replacing. As we see this increase in clients, we're going to have to be ready for it with a new truck, which is really a half of a new truck. but we need to replace a cabin chassis under one of our organics trucks. And, you know, totes, the equipment that we use, you know, has to get replaced. And so that's why we're still seeking investment. And like I said, we have the setups already in place. It would be something attractive to impact investors, perhaps a foundation or somebody like that, or others. And I also want to let everybody know, if you have a commercial driver's license or know anyone in the community who has a commercial truck driver's license and is looking for a job, we are very, very soon going to start putting somebody on. Probably starting out part-time, but it's a growth potential job. And interestingly, it has been hard for us to get, sometimes it's been hard for us to get Roxbury Dorchester applicants. So help us get the word out. All of our drivers now live locally, but that hasn't always been the case. Yeah, and Maya, tag team and then open it up.
Yeah, great. So I want to talk a little bit more about tech and capital investment improvements and anchor institution procurement. So on the whole, CERO is very well positioned to offer services to anchor institutions, whether it be hospitals, universities, or any mix of the two, because of our location. We're centrally in the city, so we can get to any site in about 10 minutes or so. Our tailored education and training program, which we also have created virtually, so we can offer those tools to make sure that the university is starting at the ground level, a culture change that incorporates sustainability, and it's not just a bin that they have and no one understands why they're composting. And also because of our ability to create capital investments in our truck fleet that can include onboard weighing. So a lot of universities and hospitals are now requesting for onboard weights or live weights. So that's when we arrive to the site, we're going to be measuring how much is in the tote, pound for pound, instead of measuring the truck in the whole and provided estimating weights. So essentially, as CERO grows, we're going to have to improve our equipment and innovate our process to maintain relevance in the industry. And the best way to do that now is through onboard toter weights, and also being able to provide this information that's being requested by the universities. So these are two of our goals for this year that are playing off of one another. So more anchor institution procurement, and also innovating our process to be able to include those actual weights.
I would just add to that. I think that it's going to make us competitive in the industry to figure out this weighing thing. Even the big guys don't do it very well. And certainly our direct competitors have not figured this out, and I'm not sure they're prioritizing it. We're doing a lot of research, thinking about how people estimate their weights. And from a financial management point of view, it kind of doesn't make sense to be charging customers for volume, but paying our expenses by weight. So we'll charge customers for volume in the number of totes that they contract for, right? But then we go out to the compost facility and we're paying by the ton for our tipping fees. So that, you know, that always makes pricing challenging, because the weight of a tote at a college cafeteria is very, very different than the weight of a tote at a food processor or a brewery, where it might weigh 200 pounds different. So that's where that comes in, and being able to provide customers with accurate data, because hopefully the best argument for them to hire us is not only because their cost for trash is going up, but because they want to be heading towards zero waste and quantifying how much their they're separating and how much they're diverting and how they can continue to make that lower and lower. In fact, we want to incentivize them to have less material to compost because they do better at their overall sustainability. So we're also promoting ourselves in terms of the zero waste planning expertise that we can offer institutions. So we have opportunities to do more consulting kind of work. We are also working right now in consultation with folks familiar with the cannabis industry, because it is a place that nobody's talking about it because it's not a pretty story. But there is a huge amount of compostable material being generated in Massachusetts via the cannabis growers. And it is, as far as we know, none of it right now is being composted. And so we are figuring out systems for how that can be done, and in conversation with at least one company for doing it. Another connection that if anybody's got in those industries, please help us find them and help them find us.
Yeah. And just for context, currently the industry standard for weights is estimation. So at the end of a route, the truck will go to a weigh station and the whole truck will be weighed. You subtract the gross vehicle weight, and what's left is the weight of the material, which then you divide by the number of units you have in the field. The thing is, as Laura mentioned earlier, the number of units is going to vary greatly from customer to customer, because if you have, let's say, a supermarket, which is doing potatoes, or if you have an office space, which is mostly bioplastic, you know, the same tote is going to weigh vastly different. So we'll be able to provide a better value for our customers because they can understand more about the nature of their waste stream, which in turn will help them understand more ways they can reduce waste. But if you're blanketing, oh, every tote weighs X amount, it doesn't really allow you to create that accuracy. We're able to create specific sector estimations. So we'll know a hospital food waste versus a supermarket food waste is going to be more similar compared to, office food waste. But at the same time, whatever capital investments we can make to make our business better, especially since the anchor institutions are asking for that, that's what we're going to try and do. Yeah.
Johnny's telling me we still have a little more time before we're going to the Q&A. It occurs to me that folks might be interested in, when COVID first hit and everybody started thinking about lockdown, and we understood that as an essential business, we would keep on working. We had to figure it out. And I'm really, I'm happy and I'm grateful and I'm proud that CERO, everybody at CERO, every single worker at CERO, some of whom hadn't been around for very long at the time, at the beginning of COVID, everybody pulled together. Everybody was happy about putting on a mask, putting on gloves, doing extra cleaning protocols. There was no break in the unity around that. And I listen to the news enough to know how special that is and how rare that is. We're really fortunate because we haven't missed a day in the field. Our operations team has just stuck to it and done whatever they have to do to serve our customers. And fortunately, no one's gotten sick in our immediate range. And we continue to just use utter precaution and just have tip-top priority on that. I mean, part of being a worker-owned co-op is that, you're not going to see us telling the drivers they need to hurry up and get going. Don't take time to put on those gloves. Don't take time to put on that mask. We making sure. We've even done some publicity during this time. We were doing some filming, and I remember us all gathering at the truck yard and having our masks and being socially distanced, which was so weird for us. We're used to huddling around in a little conference room or huddling around in the warehouse. But we've just figured out how to do whatever we have to do. And, I don't know if that's special or not, but I do think that it's a story of being in a small business during this time. I did see somebody put a question in the chat about the PPP. Yes, we did get PPP money. And we're actually still in the process of EIDL money, which is emergency disaster loan through the Small Business Administration. Believe it or not, this application went in late March, and we're still waiting for a $25,000 loan from the Small Business Administration. That's how much red tape has been involved with that. The PPP, though, worked very, very well for us. It was easy for us to meet the criteria. I hope they do another one.
Great. I think now is a good time to open up for questions. I don't have any last words, but I'm interested to hear what you all think and answer any questions you all have.
And I think you can feel free to unmute yourselves and just ask a question, and also feel free to use the chat for any questions as well.
Maya, there are a few questions in the chat from Addison and Louise.
Yeah.
So I'll read it aloud just so just for the recording. So Louise asked, do you have contact info? I know someone just approved for cannabis store. So where can people reach you all, Sarah? Okay. So Maya has just put that in the chat, maya@cero.coop. Thomas asked, when are you listing the hiring call? I think it's just for the truck driver.
We'll put it on our website.
Yeah, and we'll be sure to push it out through Ujima as well.
Okay, excellent.
People can actually apply for jobs through our website. And there may already be the truck driver posting up there. I'll check. If not tonight in the morning, I'll check.
Okay, excellent. All right, everyone's all about the chat tonight. Joyce asked, have you considered composting for homes and/or apartments?
We have done composting for a couple of apartment buildings and complexes. We have considered residential composting. The business model is a little bit different just because it's smaller units, less control over contamination, and a little bit of a different capital investment. You need a different type of truck. But I think it is something we've spoken about before. We haven't made the leap. Laura, do you want to talk more about it?
Yeah, I do. In fact, this would be a great audience participation question to poll you guys. Use the emotion indicators or anything. I don't really like the idea. I don't favor CERO starting to do a curbside collection subscription program. I don't want to send our diesel trucks up and down the streets of our neighborhoods. I do think that neighborhood drop-off sites is a great idea for composting, and we could make it super cheap for people, like $5 a month or less, something like that. And all it would take would be, a volunteer host site, which could be commercial or residential, where we could set up a safe and protected collection spot, and folks who wanted to get together with their neighbors, we could set up a whole program for that and do it very cheaply. If you're interested in taking part in a neighborhood compost drop-off program, could you indicate that some kind of way? I see a thanks, Sierra. Thumbs up, thumbs up. Maybe we can figure out how to follow up with Ujima on getting something going with this as we work it out. I know that I have been talking to some folks in Nubian Square who are down for setting up a drop-off spot pretty much right in the middle of Nubian Square, the Wellness Collaborative folks. And that will be, that would be one place we could roll that out.
Yeah, drop-off site would be great because since it's an opt-in program, contamination rates would be low.
Right.
Excellent. And just to, I don't know if the two of you can see the chat, but looks like lots of enthusiasm for this idea. Deborah said, I wonder if faith-based institutions would be good partners for neighborhood drop-offs. Let's see, Michael Robinson's, Addison said, would love to help organize it in our neighborhood to get some youth involved as well. So I don't know if you know Addison Turner already, but definitely exchange contact information. Michael Robinson said, we have a drop-off program and would be happy to share our experience.
Michael.
Let's see, I think Johnny, you sent me a chat, but it seems like you, okay, gotcha. Thank you, Johnny. Johnny's highlighting a question for me. I'll get to that in a little bit. Just want to make sure.
For the person who, Addison also talked about pedal people, we actually serve as that's a great model also for collaboration. We have a pickup location with Restoring Green Roofs, and it's also where the warehouse is for pedal people. And so we can serve as sort of a transfer spot for them to pick up the small loads with their bikes and then consolidate them, and then we can take them to the farm in our truck. That's also a really great model.
And another question from Addison, and I did see that there was one from Omar earlier. Addison says, I'm particularly interested in what you're saying about what successful co-ops like yours need to do in order to stay relevant in their industry. I don't know if you want to respond to that remark.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I think on one hand, there's that do 80% work and 20% innovation, right? So think about what space or what time can you and your team dedicate to innovation, even if it seems like an outlandish suggestion. Just being able to have that safe space to bounce those ideas. I think what's also really important in terms of maintaining relevant as a co-op is the accountability structure. So where in a traditional business, I think there's this sort of top-down designation, in a co-op where it's a collective co-creation space, really understanding still how to, provide them and do the marketing and to provide the customer success relationships and management, and being able to have that easy and clear path of communication between you and potential customers is really important. And I think that's something that can be challenging in co-ops, but as long as there's like the dedication and accountability to that every day, I think that's important. Yeah.
Maya, and I know there was a question from Omar. Let me just find it. Omar asked, it's a little further up. Is the city of Boston supportive of co-ops? What can we push them to do better?
Yeah. The city has been somewhat. Here I want to shout out to Aaron, because he's been part of, with others, helping push the city around co-ops. And CERO has participated in those efforts along the way. I will say that just before COVID hit, CERO had been awarded the first contract to do composting with Boston Public Schools. And we were about to launch a pilot with Boston Latin, the Blackstone, and what was the third one? Do you remember?
Boston Green Academy.
And Boston Green Academy in Brighton.
Yeah.
Who had already composted with us last year, privately, separate from the school. So we were really excited about that. And I'm sure that it'll come back. I also should say that in this COVID time, we just received a $15,000, the second round of the emergency COVID grants that the city awarded to us as a minority business. We haven't gotten the check yet, but we have gotten the nod that we had gotten that. I believe we got $5,000 early in the year. I mean, all these little things have really been what keep the small businesses going during this time a lot. We also participated, Nia was the first one who gave me the heads up to apply for the BECEF. I won't remember what it all stands for. But this is, someone other than me can talk probably more intelligently about that fund. But what has been cool about it is that aside from, I believe it was $11,000 in, it's a loan, but it's got very generous terms. We have been working with Stephen Ladd and Jeff Kushner, a couple of mentors who are real marketing guys from the business world, who I think both in very, very sincere and authentic ways have had some kind of light come on in their minds to make them feel that they want to share their earned wealth and privileged gained knowledge with community folks like us, with women and minority owned businesses. And what I love hearing most from Stephen is, we get it. This isn't just about teaching you guys skills. The way that we're going to find out that we're successful is because you get some of these contracts. And they've been really great meeting with us every week. That's been a good experience.
Yeah, I think it must have been 2 or 3 years ago in 2017 where I testified at a hearing at City Hall about worker-owned cooperatives and how this could be an answer for economic justice in our city. And I think, from there, the city definitely did step it up. They debuted the office or some workshops for worker ownership, worker-owned co-ops, and also ESOPs, employee stock option programs. And I think that's important. But I do think, when you look at other countries and what their governments are offering for worker ownership and worker-owned co-ops, it's definitely not that much in comparison. So there's more work to be done, but I am appreciative of, the city of Boston also gave us $100,000 unsecuritized loan, which was really helpful. So if you step up and you ask for it and you say that you're here, I know Laura spends a lot of time at City Hall speaking to a lot of people, whether it's city councilors or trying to speak with the mayor. It's really important. Yeah, Maggie just put in the chat that City of Boston added 2 more TA providers with specialization in co-ops. Yeah, so this is important. It's super important, but also funding is still challenging. I think just accessing funding is still challenging for co-ops and for people who want to create businesses that are working class. So there's more work to be done, but I think we're on the right path at least.
I also feel like we need to not give the city of Boston too easy of a pass. We got to really start talking and putting the heat on Boston about displacement of small businesses. You guys are all aware of gentrification and displacement when it comes to residential and the eviction moratoriums and all that kind of stuff. We have been trying for 5 years to get the city of Boston to work with us to secure land. We have, what we're doing right now, we're grateful to be, compost haulers, but we really have a much bigger vision for a Green New Deal economy. We have what Barack Obama's administration would have called a shovel-ready project. We worked with partners, City Fresh Foods and the Wellness Collaborative, trying to get 10 acres of land in Mattapan. We were not designated for that, but we've been trying to get the city to help get some land to support economic development, community-led economic development initiatives. And you see the cranes in the sky, you know how much development boom has been going on. And, you know, when we talk about holding the anchor institutions, you know, to be accountable for not paying their fair share, I think we also have to get the city to step up and do more. Or you know, CERO may not be in the city of Boston 5 years from now.
Has asked, and I think this will be the last question. And just before we go to that, Laura, because you mentioned BECEF, so I do just want to make sure I let people know what that is really quickly. And I did put a link to that in the chat. It is very creatively named Business Equity COVID-19 Emergency Fund. This is one of the many coalition efforts that came together during the pandemic. We are a part of that coalition. Ujima is a part of the coalition, along with the Foundation for Business Equity, Amplify Latinx, BECMA, Black Economic Council of Massachusetts, and Commonwealth Kitchen. And these were 0% loans up to $100,000 that also came along with, I would say, kind of concerted or dedicated technical assistance. And so that was really useful in directing that to CERO while we were working on the terms for our investment in CERO, which took some time. And so we wanted to make sure CERO had something to tie themselves, well, I mean, that's not the best phrase in the world, but CERO had something during the pandemic while we were kind of hashing out the terms of our investment. And so we also really see the importance of relationships in this work because we're really able to turn to our friends really quickly to be able to offer additional assistance to CERO. And let's end with this last question from John, which is, what would you do with those 10 acres?
So we, along with partners, that some of whom I described, have a vision for a Green New Deal Innovation Center. And this is for job creation and resource maximization. Currently, what CERO does with all the beautiful compostable resources that we collect around the city of Boston in the metro area, we're collecting this material and we're exporting it. We're bringing it out to Medway or up to Haverhill, where we're paying a farmer to take that material from us and turn it into gorgeous, beautiful composted soil products. And then we're buying it by the yard to bring it back to support urban agriculture. So what we would do if we had 10 acres or not even that much, the CERO part of it is that we want to integrate vertically and do the processing ourselves via anaerobic digestion, which is closed vessel, in-vessel composting operation, where you take, for example, 10 pounds of food scraps, you get a kilowatt hour of clean renewable energy that you can use to fuel trucks, that you can use to power electricity at a school. You can use it to heat greenhouses. And you also get a liquid fertilizer product that you can market as an organic fertilizer, really good stuff. We also were working with wellspring cooperatives, and with the anaerobic digester, we were going to heat 10,000 square feet of greenhouses. That will provide about 50 jobs for people in the neighborhood, as well as growing lots of really great, wonderful, beautiful food, some of which we could process, bag, and sell, some of which City Fresh Foods could use. We were also going to co-locate City Fresh Foods with their 250 employees. And they are providing probably more now, but the last I knew, they were doing something like 3,000 meals a day to school children and elders around the city of Boston. They're probably doing 5,000 or more meals a day now. But City Fresh Foods is also threatened with displacement. They're renting their space just like we're renting our space. Both of us are over near Newmarket, between Dudley and Newmarket. So 10 acres of land could also house all those things, as well as David Hurst Landscaping. We were going to train people for permaculture, hardscape and landscaping jobs and small business development. And we were going to have a Green New Deal Innovation Center, educational center, where we could be training the leaders of the future, the business owners of the future in all these green economy, Green New Deal jobs. And we actually are being courted right now by folks in the city of Brockton to bring our Green New Deal Innovation Center there. So that's what we would do with 10 acres or even 6.7 acres that we're looking at now. Thanks, John.
Well, a follow-up question, Laura. You know that Kenzie Bach, Councilor Bach, has proposed a Green New Deal Conservation Corps, and there's a hearing next Tuesday.
Oh,
And I'll email you the info. You should testify, because
I will.
what you're talking about is exactly that, especially if there's an emphasis on youth. But training people in the green economy is absolutely what we need. So
That's right.
I'll
That's right.
reach out.
Thanks, John. I'll take that info. In fact, I was on the phone today with Kelsey Bach's chief of staff because they're sending letters of support for our bids at Northeastern and BU.
Okay, I'll send you the hearing order, and yeah, you should, if you can.
I will.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
And that'll wrap us up. Thank you so much, Laura. Thank you, Maya. If you received reminders from us, and everyone, almost everyone here, if you RSVP through Eventbrite, should have received reminders from us Tuesday and Wednesday. And as I'm saying that, actually, I'm realizing I'm misspeaking. What I want to say is we were able to add some question options to the ticket options for this event, so that you could ask some questions through Eventbrite if you wanted to. I don't believe we got any questions through Eventbrite, but I'm mentioning this to say this, of course, is not the end of the conversation or the last conversation that you will have with CERO. So if you have any additional questions, if you're a processor and you need to kind of take what you heard and what you saw and think about it and reflect some more, please do not be shy about following up with reflections or questions. Johnny, I want to check with you to see if it's okay to have people connect with you with that. Okay, Johnny's given a thumbs up. His email address is johnny@ujimaboston.com. So again, if you have reflections about what you've heard tonight, any questions about what you've heard tonight, reflections about what you've seen. So you did see a chart from Laura, or any reflections about what you've seen. Again, this is not the end. Please do contact us. We also said this is our first annual investment report out. So what we do require from our businesses that we invest in is that they do a quarterly check-in with our fund management team. CERO had their first quarterly check-in a couple of months ago, and they also know that they do an at least annual conversation with our members. And so this is the first one. So you can expect a conversation like this with all of our investees at least annually. And do also know, again, that they do quarterly checkups with our fund management team. Also, and then I will for sure turn it over to you, Johnny, for last words. We will also have our inaugural investor report coming out January 11th. And that's just really our communications, schedule, so to speak. As you know, we talk a lot. And so the investor report is in a line of other communications. And so you should be on the lookout for that on January 11th. We do anticipate that will be available at least annually. And Johnny and I are going back and forth with how frequent. You may not be surprised. I want it to be very frequent. And so we're just trying to make sure that that is feasible. So I will turn it over to you, Johnny, for the last word on this process. And again, thank you, Laura. Thank you, Maya. And thank you to the rest of you.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think you summed it up pretty well. Thank you, CERO, for coming out. Again, this will not be the last time we hear from CERO and other investments that we'll be making and investing in, particularly in our community. So this will be a regular. We're still kind of thinking through what the structure is going to look like. This will not necessarily be the standard structure. So it might be a different event. Not necessarily incorporated into the Wednesday evening. So we'll talk a little bit more about that and figure out what that looks like and share with you all what that looks like. And in detail with the report, as Nia shared, it'll be out January 11th. We are, if Nia can have her way, that investment report will be done quarterly. So folks will have regular updates. If it's my way, there'll be a combination of them both. So stay tuned. And so in terms of the comment about how much we talk, I'm sure the member teams are saying that right now, kind of like, when can we get started? So with that being said, thank you all for participating. Thank you all for joining us. If you are not a member of any of the member teams this evening, we have Anchor Institution, and is there a second one? I'm trying to remember.
This evening is
Hudson King.
in UNESCO.
UNESCO. How did I miss it? Sorry.
Yep. And what we can do now is stop the recording and let everyone say non-awkward goodbyes if they are not going to stick around for the member team meetings. Thank you.